Hi, it is I, John underscore Silva underscore, your favorite streamer. Today, Yogurt is asking, how do I learn to create such a detailed piece so efficiently as Zuzheng? All these abstract blobs of color that actually read well in the scene overall. I always work zoomed out and plan my scenes beforehand, but I find it very hard to not go in and start detailing this one tree rock tower in my scenes, and then end up spending hours, hundreds of hours onto the piece over a month, and still without nearly as good results. Amen. That's all I'm gonna say. Is I'm sure most of us, if not all of us, can relate to that. Let's zoom in here a little bit. Also, you did mention that you're talking about specifically this area here, so I might put emphasis on it, but let me see if I can find an even better place to begin the demo. Abstract blobs of color. Yeah. Okay, so as usual, once you understand something, the answer is simple, but it's not really simple. But I will explain to you in the very least the technique. I'm just seeing if I can find a better place than that. I'm thinking this tower here looks really looks quite detailed, but it really isn't. Okay, yeah. Let's do the tower there. Is that okay with you, Yogurt? I mean, it's kind of your question, and you're here in the chat. Let's sample this. Is it okay with you? Sure? Okay. All right, let me... There you go. Now it's pretty for you, chat. Pretty just for you. And now let's blow this up. And I'll explain. Okay, so I'll answer it right away. The trick, quote-unquote trick, is drum roll shapes. It's the guy. The guy is obviously very fucking good, and he knows the exact, like, he places his shapes with the correct value and saturation, and on top of that, it's what I just said plus a very smooth gradient. At least that's the way it looks like to me. We're gonna test it out here. So that is what he does. So let's do the sky. Hey Patrick, what's up? How surprising, smile. Damn, with a goddamn house. Hi. We're in the middle of Silva Decodes. How exciting. Hi, welcome on in, everyone. Hope you had a good stream. I'm in the middle of explaining something, so forgive me if I'm not paying too much attention, but I will get back to you guys with my full focus once I'm done answering this. For now, sit back, talk to the chat. Hope you had a really, really good stream, DM. Thank you for the host. Very nice, yes. So we have the background here first. And I'm going to first do a little sketch, kind of like place everything down. Now, I don't know if this is the way the artist did it. This is the way I think, like, it's quite easy to plan things ahead of time. Do it with Z. Is that Zikawa? Yes. I should have wrote her full name. But yes, we might have a duo stream with Zikawa if she's down for it. I said yes. I mean, she wrote to me. All right, so first I'm doing like a little outline of what the silhouette and placement of oops. Honestly, I don't know what is this. It's just a tower, I guess. And what you want to focus on first. Let's actually take this and close any gaps. The best way I personally would find to do this, and the easiest way to do this for me, is to fill in. Oh, whoops. Let's erase the fragmented areas. You paint the shape. Whether you do it with the line art first, or you start by I'll erase and redo it again just to show you. Whether you start that way or you start with a sort of like blobby way of painting, right? Like a sculpting way of painting is what the artists say. It doesn't really matter. I personally like to just kind of create the outline because I'm more of a line art guy, to be honest. But either way is fine. It doesn't really matter. Let me just clean up here and there. All right. So once you have this here, there you go. You can start painting. I would start painting the midtones of my designs because you won't know how it's really gonna look like, right? Or maybe you have an idea but you're not too sure. So I would start with the midtones, for example, the oranges there. I kind of go maybe kind of like this. You know, it looks quite saturated. Yeah, that looks about right. And then you start designing your prop, your building, whatever it is. Actually, this is more orange than not. So you start designing which shapes you want to really. This is imperative. You want to care about. I'm trying to think of a different word for shapes. What's a different word for shapes? Help! I don't know more English. It really, honestly, I'm parroting at this point, but it really is all about the shape of the light versus the shape of the shadow, and both things will complete the full-on shape of your design. Okay, for example, let me get technical here. So this part here, hopefully you guys can see. I don't know if it's too small on stream or whatever. This whole part here is what I would consider one part of the ceiling, one part of the design of the ceiling, but it's split in two. We have the green part. Let's make this pink. We have the green part, and you have the pink part, right? Green part, let's call it, is the light part. Pink part is a shadow part. Let's just put it in those terms, right? So you want to really care for those two things. Honestly, it's not even just here. In any style that you paint or draw, in any situation, you kind of should always think about that. It becomes very, very normal. But I would say that here, it's extremely important that you nail it down because it'll look very wrong if you don't. All right, so I'm gonna go around and like adding the rest of the design of the light of my building, of my roof here. And there you go. I would consider, actually, I said this was mid-tone. I lied. I don't do that very often. This is more like in the light than actual mid-tone. So I'm just gonna go around and kind of like eyeball it, you know, kind of like do that. I don't think he, wait, I'll do this the proper way. I don't think he went ahead and I'm actually gonna go with the mid-tone. Always going back on my words. Here we go. There you go. All right, let's do the midtones first and then adding the light, because I still think that's like way easier to do than the other way around. And I don't want to give you the wrong sort of process, quote unquote. So I would still recommend, even if you did it up here, I would still recommend doing it with a midtone and then adding on top, even then. But since I already did the top, I'm not going to. Gonna, actually, this is a little too dark. There you go. I think I found it. It'll still look quite dark because we don't have the gray. Obviously, we can fix that easily. in this case. I think I'm gonna do it because I can't. Oh, there you go. Yeah, okay. So I'll just do this, and then my explanation will be even clearer. There you go. Blah blah blah. All right. Bam bam bam. You can add the all the designs you want to it, as long as you pay attention to the shapes you're drawing. Obviously I have reference, and the way he started, I would assume that he didn't even started I can start from any point because it's arbitrary. That word, you know what I mean. I'm not gonna say it again. That word that I just said, but correctly. I think he actually may have started with the dark shapes initially, so I'm gonna jump ahead into that. So I think it was kind of like this, yeah, maybe a little bit more purple. There you go. Oh yeah, that's pretty close. I honestly, it could be any way. It's anyone's guess, unless he has a process. Then you'll know exactly what he's done. But I would say that most artists either start with really darks, the really darks for their shape, design, way of process, or with the really brights. I started with the really brights, but then I noticed there's not really that many. So he may have started this particular one with the shadows. So I'm gonna do exactly that and see how that's gonna compare. The final step is I will add a little bit of glow and some texture, which will tie everything together. So at first it'll look quite flat because, well, honestly, that's exactly what you're doing. It's kind of like doing a flat thing. But I'm gonna actually do here. I'll fix the roof thingies. I don't really know what to call them. So I would bet that he's actually, now going further into this image, he most likely did start with the dark shapes. And I also think that varies depending on what you're painting as well. At least it does for me. I don't know if this artist would be the same, but I'm just saying that every step of the way can always be a little different as far as what you start with. There's no real, the thing about art is there's no real like, oh, you should at all times always do this one thing, right? It's always just kind of like an idea, or there's like a lot of processes, and you just kind of like learn as many as possible and apply to whichever and you apply to whatever makes you achieve the result faster, type of thing, right? Do you think then it would be better to start with either a very simple sketch or no sketch at all to learn this approach? It's up to you. If you're more of a line art person, I mean, I still think that sketch is better than anything ever, no matter what style you do. But I definitely would do a sketch. I'm not very it's not my strength to start with like blob painting. I can do that, like shape painting, and then build it up from there. Like I've done it so many times, but it's not my preferred way. I am more comfortable, and I think I do design better when I do very loose sketches. It doesn't need to be anything like super cool. It's just a guide, you know? All right, so I'm gonna fix the roofs here because honestly, this is not, let's be honest, it's not working out here. It's not working out here, bruh. Not working out here, bruh. So let's adjust this. Also, I have them on separate layers. I should have mentioned that. So this is like blah, blah, blah. I don't know if he's done that. I personally think it's a good idea to always have that. Always a very good idea. And now, what was I doing? Oh yeah, fixing the... There you go. I'm also gonna make it actually darker. Yeah, so the reason why I locked the transparency is because I can do shit like this, like, and they have the layers on a different layer. So have the layers on a different layer. Have the designs on different layers. That's good enough. Yeah. All right, I'd say that's good enough. Let's call it there. Now, at this point, I am missing a couple of design elements here and there, but at this point, I would start adding texture variation. So you can see some of it there. I'm just gonna make this darker. I don't know what kind of brush he used. So there's two things happening in this step: is brush variation and hue. Hue shifts. So all that really means is that there's very little differences in color. So you'll see a little, like, a couple areas here are a bit more blue, like for example here, you know. And he's taking into consideration, like, you know, it's gonna be the shadow. So here automatically will be like a little bit bluer. So it's nice to keep that in mind. Also, this is now too blue here. There you go. You can use whatever texture you want. This works. This will work pretty well with any like chalky looking kind of brush. And also you need to have patience because it's environments. It'll always take longer. But generally, I think environments do take longer just because there's a lot more content than just one character. But then again, it depends, right? It depends on your proficiency too. I just noticed this was supposed to be a double thingy. Well, good thing it's not a design question and more of a process question, because otherwise I'd be failing right now. There you go. All right, cool. Yeah, so I was in the building here. Yeah. So you keep in mind, you had a little bit of form, not too much. Okay, so to keep something simple looking but still giving it form, you want your values shift to be very narrow. So instead of going like from, I'll make an example, a clear example here. There you go. So this is my shadow. If you'll paint, there you go. So this is the shadow and this is my light. The jump between the two, well, next to each other, it might appear quite big, but it's only, if you look at the light slider at the bottom here, look at the numbers. It says 54 for the bright, it's 54 brightness, or 54%, I guess you could call that. And this one is 40%. So about 10% or so difference. It's really not that much. But given like gradients in your eyes, of course I still didn't add the light part, so the light part will maybe be another 10%, so maybe from the brightest to the darkest is like a 20% difference. You really want to, I'll answer your question in a second, Yogurt. You really want to keep in mind the narrowness of the values, and that gradients will create the illusion of something being three-dimensional, even though your values aren't really that bright. You're also asking, there's always room to add detail to those rooftops, for example, on smoother gradients in between the shadows and lights. When do you know it's better to stop yourself and cut on adding more details? It's just a matter of mileage. When do you know where to cut details? It's, in my personal opinion, it's all about how far or how close something is, and you pre-establish that. It's honestly, it's up to you. There's no ruler that it'll make you go like, oh, from this point on, you should start making it like your shape simpler, right? So, for example, I'll give you one example. If a window, I'll hide this for now. Okay, so if a window very close to us, right? We're kind of like maybe right in front of the window, of a window here, right? So we see the maybe it has a little balcony, and we see all of the crevices and divisions and like the insides too, like that. This is a very narrow window, but you'll get my point in a moment here. So we see all of like the details, all of the like creases, patterns, texture, like all of the color differences, and it's very detailed, and maybe like there's even like tiny little like divisions here, like maybe it's a 4 panel per window, like glass panel per window type of thing, and you see all of the, maybe you even see like the curtains behind, like there's just a lot of details, right? Maybe you can even see the moss on the side if there's any moss whatsoever, or in under too. Now the same window, right? If this is what you pre-established how a window would look like if we were kind of like fairly close enough to it, I'm gonna straighten it up. If that same window was really far away, at this point, look, I just made it smaller.
You get 96 gifted a tier 1 sub toward you. This is their first gift sub in the channel.
Thank you so much. I'll get to you. Beepo Happy's for yogurts. You're the best. Now, the same window, if I make it smaller, this, in my opinion, is wrong. There's too many little, you know, too many little lines, too many, it's just too busy of an information. So what you want to do is do a second version of it where you go and you simplify the design you had in it. So maybe you do see like how much taller than wider the window is, and maybe again, this is something you have to establish yourself. Maybe you'll see the crease in between, but it's like very faint, and maybe you don't even see the balcony thingy, or I don't know what that really is called, but maybe you just see the shadow of it, and that's it. That's all you see. If there's any other designs, moss on the side or whatever, maybe we see like a blob. I'll color pick here from him. Maybe we'll see like a blob on the side or whatever, but it's gonna be very, very minimal. And that's all based on you're your own ruler. And you need to set up the not just in a metric way or in a size way, but also you set the rules to that image that you're painting. You need to set yourself rules. Otherwise, everything will just look kind of scuffed. You know, I guess you can add like some more extra things, but so that is how I personally would measure whether something has a lot of detail or not, purely based on distance. Now, if the thing at the distance has a main focal point, now you want to break kind of your own rules a little bit, and maybe you'll add more detail for the sake of I want to say contrast, but that's not really the right word. Focus, for the sake of focus, because it is a focal point, right? So you wanna really do that. So what I said about the window applies to everything. It applies to the light that you add, the shape of the light that you add, the detail of the light as well. So you can see that here is just literally, it's literal just squares. And you might note the longer we look at this, the more we start noticing how quite simple, right, the brush strokes are and everything else. Also, I am 100% sure, I forgot to mention this, that he uses selection tools, and I'm thinking that all of these shapes that he's doing for the most part are selections. So it's something that you need to keep in mind. Use a lot of selections. Actually, in the wheel that you sent me here, yeah, this wheel here is has a lot of selections to it. It's a mix of like selections and brushes. Yeah. Okay, yeah, definitely he uses a lot of selections. So I'm just noticing that now more and more. So these doors and everything that I made by hand, he went in there and he kind of like just like drew the little thing, and then he just went ham with it. So get used to using selections, which also, well, it does make sense to me. So I'm just gonna add here a little bit more, whatever. So yeah, once again, the detail, the amount of detail you apply to these things here is ultimately up to you. This is actually darker. There you go. This is actually like that. And then here goes brighter. Okay, so I think he does it in a couple of areas. I'll do it just here. Fuck it. Okay, I'll use a little bit of the lasso tool. So he'll probably he probably does draw with the lasso tool, hides it, and then I'm just gonna make a new layer. And then he uses a texture brush, and that's how he creates some of his really nice brush work. I know you didn't really ask for that. Well, I guess it is an extension of your question. A lot of his brushstrokes come from the really nice selection that he has, and he kind of like, I'll use a different brush to prove what I'm talking about. Where's the streaky? There you go. So he'll kind of like do this. You see where like it kind of, oh, here is perfect. Look at this part here. Blah 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 blah. So like this part here, I did it too loosely. Hold on, I'm gonna redo it a little bit better. Blah 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 blah. All right, I'll pay a bit more close attention to here. So as you see, like he'll make a selection, and then he'll use the direction of his brush stroke to dictate texture and also value. So he's kind of like, oh, look how round this is, and then kind of uses that texture to make a build up. Mine, I think, is a little too buttery. He tends to use more chalky, sort of chalky brushes, but he'll do this a lot, you know, and he'll do it most likely carefully, way more careful than what I'm doing here. But you get the point. I'm starting to see everywhere now that he does that quite a lot. You know, even here he'll use, just again, go back to what I was saying, the small amounts of value. You don't want to go crazy. Just a little bit is fine. So for example, here you can see he has some brush strokes there, and the value doesn't really change that much. It's mostly the texture brush doing work, while the value is very, very narrow. Right, so I can kind of like do that. And there you go. Okay, so this makes a lot more sense. I do think some areas he went there freehand and he's just blah, blah, blah. but not a lot. I don't think. Not a lot, because you need those sharp edges, to be honest. And now it makes sense. As I keep going, it makes sense why you would want... why do you want that? You know? So like this window here, instead of going freehand, it looks very much like he just kind of like did that, hit selection, and kind of like went like with the texture brush, bloop, boom, he's done. Next window, hide it, boom, boom. Next place. Oh, this thing. All right, this little like middle section here or whatever. Bang, done. Easy clap. And it's that over and over and over and over again. Now, I don't know if he uses gradients. That's the part I'm kind of confused on. One thing you can do, I guess I'll do it regardless, is I'm gonna merge the... Whoa, I guess I don't. Do I merge layers? Yes. All right. So I'll just do that. So one thing I think he does is he might, in places, add a very soft gradient. I think I see it in a couple of areas in his paintings. Let me hide this. It looks like I might be I might be deceived or deceased, but also deceived. I think it's honestly, it's mostly... I think it's mostly flat. The dude is like fucking amazing. But I'll still tell you what I would kind of do if I wanted to fake it a little better, which is I'd grab a brush, maybe set it to even... let's set it to darken. And I would kind of... Let's make that selection. I would kind of give it a very, very faint and soft kind of glow here. That can work really, really well. Flats plus gradients are like really... They pair up really, really nicely. Whether those gradients are in multiply or overlay or whatever it is, like I can add just... You want to be so soft with it though. You don't want to go crazy. You don't want to like, you know, like you just a little love, just a little tap, you know. You don't want to go full on slam ham, right? I don't know if he's done that or not. I know if he does that very, very subtly. However, I want to tell you that you could do it. I think it helps anyways. But yeah, this wasn't an easy answer. I mean, I guess I could wrap it up by just adding the clouds in the background. So even the clouds, he goes like, you know, like that. Add some more. Wait, shit. Hide selection. There you go. So it looks like he do that sort of thing. Also, I think it's more purple. Yeah. Let me color pick that. So it feels like he would do this sort of thing, you know, like sculpt his cloud. I'll add another one here. Just for good measure. And then he, off the deselection, I can tell he uses a little bit of brush, a smudge tool here and there. And also the brushes themselves. He'll like blend in a little bit. The brushes here and there. All right. So he'll kind of like go over everything just a little bit, and also with the smudge tool for sure. You can tell he definitely does it. Maybe even with the not even smudge tool, even the other one. What is it called? Fucking the painting one. I forgot what it was called. But maybe even with that, honestly, in some areas it looks like he might do that as a final touch, as a final thingy. So yeah, this answers pretty much the your question. Hope you liked. If you do like the Silva Decodes, consider supporting me by just either for free following or subscribing to the channel. Subs get multiple perks. One of them is getting your answers, getting your questions answered more quickly. Pay to win, just like a mobile game, amongst many other things. So thank you. I'll see you on the next video. Bye bye. It was the mixer brush. Yes.